Hello, Daniel Walden. I'm so excited to have you here today on Tell's Tips Empowerment Podcast. How are you? Where are you in this van that I'm looking at right now?
So much there. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I am
welcome.
great. It's another beautiful day in the Pacific Northwest, specifically Washington. That is where the van is parked at this moment.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm always wondering. I follow you on Instagram. I'm like, what am I looking at today? Like, where's that view at today? That's so cool. I have so many questions for you, but I really just want to start off with how did you become this van life person, and where did this all begin, just with that journey, and then we'll dive into stuff later, but that's really what I want to know right now from the get-go.
Game on. The question is how.
Yeah, how?
Okay.
Like what?
Yeah, let me unpack that, and I'll try to be efficient with that answer. I always thought it was cool when I saw people climbing. I'm an outdoorsy person, if you've put that together yet. And I would see these people on climbing trips, and they would have like their camp set up and a kitchen, and a lot of times they were doing it in vans. That had to have been the 2000s. And I was like, I want to do that someday. I remember drawing a blueprint of it, and I was like, oh, I should see if I can really refine that. And I still have the blueprint that I drew. Like, I think it was like 2008 or something. And I was like, oh, I should keep that in front of me. And I eventually ended up just ordering it right when I got a job. And then, within a couple of months, I had this thing, and I was like, yes, here it was. And I've been traveling this thing for 6-7 years now.
So cool. And you rent it out as well, right?
Yeah, that was born within the last year. Somebody said, oh, you should sell it. So I made some sale posts just trying to sell it. The market was hot during COVID.
Yeah.
And people couldn't get vans built fast enough. So I was like, I'll just charge what I charge, see if it sells. I had some offers, and it was funky people. They were like, well, here's what I can do, and they were like asking me to be the bank and the seller. And I was like, I'm not your dad. Just buy the van or don't buy the van.
Yeah.
And then I had a lot of people comment to rent. And I was like, cool, let's do it. So I did order another van, and I was like, I'll just get another van built out. And then this one rents straight up like an Airbnb, like an experience. People rent it and they just go and take it wherever they do.
That is the coolest thing. I don't think I've ever seen a van on Airbnb until looking at your link in your bio. And I'm like, what? Like, how cool is that? I would love that.
It's neat. I think when you value it as the vehicle and your hotel, and you'll go to restaurants, right? You're traveling, but you'll still have good food for the way you live your lifestyle.
Yeah.
I think that all adds up. Enjoying coffee the way you like it versus just going to a shop nonstop when you travel. I love it. That's what I think makes the travel so sustainable, is having your sort of taste of home on the road.
Yeah. And I think it just speaks to like such a minimalistic, like simple lifestyle that it's like you get to actually enjoy outside of the van, that it makes you enjoy being in the van just to sleep and like have a meal or two. And then you're just like, it's supposed to be lived out of, like you're supposed to enjoy the view and step out of it,
That's how I answer it a lot. People will always say, how do you like living in a van? I was like, I don't really live in a van. I sleep in a van. I live outside though.
I love that. Yes, that I feel that. Not that I have ever lived in a van, but I am all for glamping in an RV and things like that. And I'm like, that's kind of the similarity. Like, you don't hang out in the RV or the van. You go for the adventure outside of it.
Absolutely. I'm from the East Coast, and I remember leaving, and I was like, I want to do my rite of passage. And for me, it was hiking the Appalachian Trail. And I had my first love of the outdoors was backpacking. And to me, van life is like the ultimate long distance backpacking trip.
Yeah.
It's like being a Boy Scout. You have everything you need and you're prepared, but it's just so luxurious, at least for the glamping sense. It is truly glamping and super sustainable.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. Do you ever like leave the van for long periods of time? Like do you go camp in the woods or anything, or you always just like come back to the van?
No, this sort of spurs back to our earlier joke about our fur babies. I've only been away from him for like 15 to 18 days in his life.
Yeah.
So I've given up on like my own personal pursuits, like long backpacking or bike trips, just because I
Yeah,
want to be involved.
totally.
But I have some trips where it'll be like very bike centric or very surf centric, and I'm out of the van for hours at a time during the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, I know. And it's one thing because it's like everyone talks about children. I don't have children yet, and I'm assuming your child is your dog, right? Like that's how
Absolutely.
I feel too. And it's like they do weigh you down a little bit, but it's a compromise because the love they give and just the comfort and having your dog with you. That's so cool. What's your dog's name?
His name's Coop, like Cooper.
Super cute. Super cute. Love that. Love that. My dog's name is Brix and he's a German Shepherd. And so I think we can relate on the hair sheddingness
Oh
of
yeah, it's all over
dogs.
every one of my shirts.
Oh yeah, same, same. We can't really be that presentable, but it means you're a dog person, which we can all respect, hopefully.
Another rite of passage.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think going back to like the simplicity, like minimalistic lifestyle, like have you always lived that way, or was that pretty shocking to go from like a house or an apartment or wherever you were living before to a van?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been a journey of how I've gotten here. I come from like a board sports background,
Okay.
and having some early help along the way. I had some sponsorships, and I remember just getting so many like pairs of board shorts, pairs of
Yeah.
shoes, sunglasses, and it was so cool. It's like I have this thing, and I've got like every colorway, and it was like
Yeah.
accumulated.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I don't like having this much stuff even then. So
Yeah.
now that I've pared back, it's like getting one thing that does the job of many, like whatever that thing is, the right jackets, the right items, whatever.
Right? It's almost overwhelming when we're like just such a consumer focused society. And I feel like living in a van would culture shock a lot of people, myself included. That's just why I bring that up because I'm like, how do you do it? How
Yeah.
did you transform?
It's really funny. It's a very I think it's a very gratifying like mentality to live with, because I'm always thinking, oh, I like this. And I will look at I'm trying to think. I was just in the store yesterday getting groceries. I think I was in the home section because I was looking at utensils. Like I need to get a spatula or something. I was like, I want something to cook with differently. And I already have things, but I was wanting a better one. And I was like, I already have stuff that really, serves that purpose. And then it's just more
Yeah.
stuff I'm traveling with. And maybe if you put it this way, the more weight you put in the van, the more your gas mileage goes down, the more stuff you're just sort of toting around. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it makes you think through your purchases at least.
Totally, totally. I already started doing that too. We moved into this house in North Carolina and I'm like, do we need that? Do we need that? That doesn't feel that feels heavy, like decluttering and stuff is all the things my clients and I talk about all the time. I'm like, do you really need that though? Like, did it feel good or did it not feel good? Like, does it align with your goals or does it not? And it's just more of that because we're always told to buy more, especially if you're in the world of just, watching TV and consuming all day long. It definitely takes a toll on your wallet and your lifestyle.
It's all we're advertised, though. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's crazy how much you see. There's always something new, and
Yeah,
they think we really can't live without it. It's
I
funny.
know.
I have been living without it. In fact, we don't need that thing.
Yeah, yeah, you're living proof of it, which I love because there's not many people that can say that truly and live by that. So that's really inspiring and empowering for us to see. So thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, so kind of going off of that, now that you are an established van owner and person that lives out of a van, is there like a title for that? Like, what do I call you? Like, I'm a homeowner. You're a
Oh,
van
you're a
owner?
homeowner. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Um, I was thinking, I joked about this the other day because I have this as a rental now, and I have my
Yeah.
new one I'm about to move into. It's not like I'm a landlord, I'm like a road lord, but that sounds really
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not a
Yes,
road lord. Like it sounds sort of Mad Max, but
it does. It does. It sounds definitely sounds fun, but let's go with that because that's the way that it should be because you don't have necessarily like a homeland, but you definitely create your home
Mhm.
outside. It's very earthy and grounding. And I absolutely love that because it just brings you back to, what matters most. So kind of going off that, how in the world did you become known as a Stoke coach?
Oh, the age old board sports jargon of Stoke. I
Yes, get stoked. I'm stoked.
staying stoked. It's something that I've found myself saying for years. I think having a board sports background, and after saying it enough, and my mom pointing it out early, like, what does that mean? Or like my girlfriend now, she was like, that is a thing I hadn't heard much before you.
Yeah,
But I am pretty notorious for maintaining attitude in, the wildest of situations, be it backpacking, long time travel, or maybe just tough times, tough transitions. And Stoke Coach is what I found myself like wanting to be involved with. Like life coach has its own category now, and I think that's like a hybridized term nowadays.
totally.
It's funky to
Totally.
define, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of people doing it a lot of different ways, and there is like no
Yeah.
criteria, no certification that's official.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, I
Yeah.
come from medicine, I'm a physiotherapist, and like that is official as it gets when it comes to, oh, you have to be certified and licensed in this state, you have to
Yep.
have this diploma, these credentials. So it's funny, I was like, cool, I'm going to make up my own term because like I know what I'm doing, and it's definitely about designing your life around staying very joyful, very present, and being connected with the people you're sharing it with. And that was like my style of coaching. And here I am. I'm Stoke coaching.
I love it. I love that so much. Do you have a particular problem you solve or challenge you help people overcome specifically?
Oh man. Well, we have tons of problems. So
Yeah,
I'm
tell
sort of
me.
I'm a tool of many purposes. Primary problem is people living a life they're not very stoked on. So I'm not always asking them to start a business. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to be stoked. You can have a 9 to 5, but getting people to look at life a little more grateful with more gratitude, and sort of making sure that they insert the adventure into whatever life they have. So they're finding themselves stoked without massive life change.
I love that because we automatically think our brains are trained to be scared of change, to fear change, to know that it's like there's going to be massive change, which is why people don't like the word decision because it makes us feel like something's going to, drastically change and our life's going to be forever messy or stressful. And it's like actually the opposite when you start aligning with that. That's my take. What's your take on that?
All right, let me just make sure I understand what you're asking. What's my take on which part?
What's your take on the mindset of how our brains go to make decisions and fear that our life is going to change drastically and be stressed about it when it doesn't have to be? Like it can be
Oh,
easy.
yeah, I sort of I've gone through plenty of convos with friends, and they're like, "Hey, where are you now?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm here. Are you what are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I got another job. I've got like another contract position." And the joke has always been that like I sort of wrote the book on taking the leap. So I don't have a lot of fear when it comes to those things. Job change, location change, or moving, building a new community, starting from scratch, not knowing anyone. Like that's the stuff that I do really well. Come to find out, I don't recognize it as a skill. It's just sort of how I have lived my life.
Yeah.
I do think it's sort of how we're conditioned. I think it's also what we see nonstop in any TV show. Those are the things that are supposed to be hard and scary. And I think if we just condition ourselves to maybe it's going to be what it's going to be, it's up to us how we perceive it, is probably more along the lines of how I take things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a perspective. And were you taught that perspective? Were you taught differently than most people are conditioned to think? Or
That's a good one. I mean, a great question that is. I'm from the South. I'm from East Tennessee, Johnson City,
yeah,
Tennessee.
pretty
Like,
sure I said that when you told me. I was like, I'm
right?
singing Wagon Wheel right now.
Yeah, everyone knows Wagon Wheel. That's where I'm from. And I think I grew up with a lot of conservative influence. And then exiting that area, I realized for me, it is a perspective shift and just being open to things. They don't have to be anything. It can be how I perceive it. And that's
Exactly.
huge. I mean, that is absolutely giant. Because I think a lot of people think what I do in a van has to be a mess, but like ultimately, the reason I find it to be so amazing is if I maintain a really good structure, I create more time in my life to do exactly what I want to do.
Exactly. I love structure. And I know some people think it's a little strict to say the word structure and to have a routine, but I like to make those things easy with like actually enjoying them and like making them fun and attractive and calling them rituals instead of routines, and making things like just taking care of yourself, picking up after yourself because it's yours, being proud of what you have, like having those little things. I feel like we can relate on because it's all about life design. It's all about how you go through, like you weren't always this way, you learned to become this way, which is kind of the whole point of life, is to learn what works.
Yeah, I like what you said about rituals and like life design, because I think that's such a proponent of what I teach folks. Like the clients that I work with, it's about prioritizing the self-care so you just show up as the best version of yourself. Because I come from healthcare, and it's so funny how everybody thinks you just have to be a giver and so give so much of yourself to others, your career, your partner, and then like you're dried up and empty and burned out. And that's why so many professions are experiencing massive burnout rate, is there's just no self-care.
Totally. I mean, I won't say most because I don't want to put people in a box or stereotype, but a lot of people in healthcare are some of the people that I know that don't take care of themselves the best way.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Right. So it's like, but I love that you are the living proof. You're acting it out every day. You are embodying that. And that is the way people can learn, in my opinion, to have an example that's actually doing it. And we're not perfect. We're not robots. We're not supposed to be, but you're feeling through it. And I feel like you're figuring it out. And that's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I took the leap. I've learned a lot. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. Same here. When I quit my 9 to 5, there was nothing wrong with it. There was nothing wrong with it on paper. It was great. It's like, but you find something that lights you up. And that's usually where the answer is, for me anyway.
Oh, that's it. That's
yeah.
Amazing. And while you're speaking of getting lit up, tell me, if you don't mind, tell me a bit about empowerment. I think like your coaching and sort of how you would differentiate that from other styles of what people are teaching out there.
Totally. Thank you for asking. I never get asked questions on my podcast. It's very helpful because normally I'm talking to an empty room. So this is very nice. So yeah, basically as an empowerment life coach is what I call myself. I help women specifically get that feeling, get lit up. And I've noticed a trend in millennial women specifically, where we are conditioned to not show who we are because it might hurt someone's feelings, or not set a boundary because we're taking care of other people, and not be the most beautiful woman we are, because I think as women we are goddesses, and I'm still confused as to why we are not in charge of major decisions and in anything really, in any industry, because we literally bring life into this world, and I'm not sure what else is the most empowering thing you could ever think of. Not that I've done that yet, but I think we all, as women specifically, and I have mostly women listeners in this community, we are portals to another world. And it is so beautiful to think about life when you are creating your own life, and to get excited for life is one of the best feelings. And I think that's what life is. We just forget that we're able to design it. And I think I empower using my own techniques, my embodiment, and what I choose to do every day. And I just share. And so it's not, I don't like to refer to the world around me as, I don't know, it's not cookie cutter, but we're putting ourselves in boxes. So I always go into that realm of why are we doing that? And I think really it's just about empowering each other. That's the whole point. It's literally the whole point. We're here. That's the whole point. You're on this podcast. That's the whole point. We're just supposed to connect. And I'm sure people learn so much from you. They learn from me. They're going to learn from this podcast. And then we're going to learn from them. They're going to show us things we don't know and maybe haven't discovered yet. And that's that's the most beautiful thing. So it's just this circle of light, and I'm always going to be a student. I studied elementary ed, and then I got a master's in educational leadership because I love education and learning and growth and people. And so then I started this whole community based on that, and it's just led to this beautiful journey of learning. And I'm like, wow, it's never ending. It truly is never ending, which is the coolest part. So that was a long answer, but that's exactly how I feel, and I'm not sorry.
Yeah, I'm like sponging that up. I was like, oh man, I'd like to hang out with her.
Yeah, we
I'd
get
like to
it.
meet
We're
my
like,
girlfriend. I was like, man, we'd really all
yeah,
get along.
for real. Like you and my husband would get along so well. It's almost annoying because he would be like, we're gonna get a van. Like he'll watch this after and be like, but he would love to go backpacking. And I'm like, glamping? Okay, like where am I sleeping? Where am I showering? And he's like, can I go in the woods? So yeah, I think we would vibe really well.
That's awesome. So, I mean, it's cool because I think I love the transition and you know, the positives of the pandemic, how everyone's taken to working
Totally.
remote and nomadically. But
Totally.
we are people. The world's gonna open back up, and we are gonna have. I mean, like you could have a meetup event schedule, right? And
Oh
like
yeah.
meet people that way. I mean, and
Yeah.
continue to build business, right? That's how you get your
Yeah.
email list built
Yeah.
up, and you can nurture
Yeah.
more people in person and qualify everyone through more FaceTime. I don't know. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're gonna get back to traveling. I'm coming back to the East Coast this year, and
Cool. Cool.
I look at it, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see everyone. I was like, I can't wait to just ride some trails and connect with all these
Yeah.
people I've met digitally,
Yeah.
no matter what we do, you know, if it's
How
just,
cool.
yeah, dining out or just getting outside together.
Yeah, I know. I think we talked about a brewery that I've been to here, and you responded and you were like, yeah, I've been,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're like from over here. So it's just so cool because you could literally connect with anyone on the internet. And for those of you listening, we met on a Facebook group about positive mindset and personal growth. And it's just so cool that you can have this conversation so openly and connect, and then be like, maybe we'll meet in person one day with our significant others and have a beer.
It's a great way to build community. I've sort of
Yeah.
dove into the Facebook groups just to see who all's out there
Yeah.
and interacting,
Yeah.
and like where are these people hanging out now that we're not doing it in person, to
I
see,
know, right?
you know, how we're consuming content, and if it's positive content. I mean, so many people need the positive content. I'm glad there's people really facilitating that community online.
Totally. Me too. There's like 18,000 people in that group alone. So it's
Oh, wow.
wild that like you even saw my post, because I'm sure it's just constant, which is really cool. So I'm so happy that we can connect on that like higher mindset, because it's difficult. It's challenging to have like non-surface level conversation and someone actually be like, I get that. Whoa.
True that. Yeah, and it's tough to interact online right now and not get sold to.
Oh my gosh, I know. It's actually annoying sometimes, because when you're the person that's, talking like, hey, I have something that you could really benefit from, it's like, well, so do they, so do they, so do they. It's almost like such a saturated
It's tough
world.
because, like, you know, you could also feel like part of the problem. You know, I'm like, oh, well,
Yeah.
I'm selling as well. I mean, no,
Yeah.
no lie, I am selling
Yeah.
product and my
As you
services.
should.
And it's like everyone does believe that we have something that can help others. That's why we're selling
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
boy, has the market changed, or let's say the marketplace changed. So
Totally. Totally. And if the way I perceive it, and the way I coach my clients to kind of shift their perspective in a way of thinking, is like, you're serving, not selling. And selling comes from serving, but you will make money, you will become abundant if you just start listening to yourself, and putting yourself out there is really, really hard. And I know that you value that so much. You put that in your answers when we were talking, as far as like getting yourself and message out there, so valuable. And I'm just so happy that you can share that. That's awesome. So what is your message, Daniel? Like, I know we touched on it a bit, but I want to know, like, as far as coaching goes, and self-care and mindset and all of those things, like, one, I want to know, where did it start?
mhm.
And two, I want to know, like, what do you offer? How can people work with you? Like, what are things that that you can offer to the world. So take it
Right.
away.
So it started, I had a really close friend lose his battle to mental health, and he ended up taking his life by suicide. And I was in medicine at the time, but during the pandemic, I definitely lost consistent work, and the challenge there, just orthopedics was not considered essential. That's what I typically do, is orthopedic physical therapy. So not being in the clinic as regularly, my head was like, man, what do I really do for people anyways? And I'm like, I help people with their legit physical problems, orthopedics, but half of our hurdles are literally connecting with them, talking to them, figuring out, why so much other stuff is coming down on them, like how they're having marital issues, or how they're the primary caregiver for their spouse and they can't do it alone, or whatever else is going on with people. And like, that's what I'm talking to them about. I'm not saying like, oh, here's how we get your shoulder better. It's like learning and how to motivate people around the other stuff that's hindering them. So it's like, I could take that and pull it into another realm. And for me, I'm in bro culture. I am a bro. And I lost my friend Matt.
Dude.
And to me, I was like, there's a better way. And for me, it's clarity, consistency, and connection. Like, it has to be there. You have to know where you're going, and then you have to show up every day, and you have to stay connected to that mission if you do want to reach that. And I was just so big on that. And I was just brainstorming with a buddy, and he was like, you sort of already do it for like your community. I send a lot of hard mail. Like, I love to write snail mail. So it was just something I was like, well, what can I do really? I'm big on structure. I'm really into journaling. How do I create people's connection to themselves? How can I help them, clarify their message? And what are some systems that can really build consistency in their life that get them through the transition of challenge and into the next best chapter? So for me, it was designing like a step-by-step guide to self-care, and it's a lot of self-care based. And I feel pretty comfortable throwing it out there into my product. Like, being a physical therapist, I know how to move, so I'm like, I got very basic structure to like performance level structure and movement if that's what they need, or just basics, and trying to slow life down so it seems attainable, pushing that through. And a lot of it's like life hacks. I mean, I'm sort of out there with the life hacks. Like, for me, it's not necessarily cold showers, because I don't have a shower in here. The shower is out the back. So I take a lot of cold showers, and like, those little hacks are little momentum builders to show you what you're made of, and build some real momentum for your life. And then a lot of it's community. Like, our group calls are once a week, and we love those, and connecting with everyone. Everyone's got deliverables. How are we showing up for people, and just being accountable? So it's a lot of support, community building, and then just accountability. And then getting in touch. I mean, I'm out there, right? YouTube, it's MountainManDan on everything. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook.
Yeah, so cool. Such a cool creation that you've developed. And how long have you been doing this? How long have you been a Stoke coach?
I started, let's see, everything 2021. I started in 2020 developing sort of what I knew I wanted to do. So like designing avatars and figuring out the niche, how to reach that niche. And of course, just what am I really offering? And then started doing the marketing plan early 2021. And I've had clients for up to about 13 months now.
Cool. Do you ever think you'll go back to physical therapy?
I've gone in and out. I sometimes appreciate it for the consistency, but when it comes to just compensation for like per hour of time, and how it is a very present job. Like, I have to show up and I have to be very there. It's a little exhausting. So I try to section it out. If I'm going to show up, I'll do it for a couple of months, and then I'll pull back out and just focus on another phase. I like the structure still, it's nice to have a schedule, but it's a really humbling thing to do for a little bit. And then I realized, oh yeah, that's why I like working with clients.
Yeah. I remember why I left now. Okay, let's go back for a little while. That's cool. That's really cool that you have that skill set and knowledge, because I do think they go hand in hand, like the mind and the body, they do. And I personally think that, physical pain is an ailment that, we create over time. It's just a symptom. It like shows us like what you've been not focusing on for a really long time. And it's just almost energy stored somewhere. I believe that. I don't know if that's too woo for you, but that's what I believe.
I could buy it. I mean, the things that I hear on the daily anyways from what
Yeah.
patients believe, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I mean, I just hear it and try to
Yeah.
turn that into a way to motivate them however they think.
Yeah, no, we could go into like a whole talk on just like how the body works and all this stuff, but that's not really my forte. But I love that you are able to blend both the mindset and the physical body. That's really helpful for any human to know, even if they're not combined when you coach, you still
Mhm.
use both.
And I think for even what you do, I mean, with embodiment and then going back to how I blend that into coaching, I just think it's a life hack. Like, I'm not trying to make
Mhm.
people professional athletes, nor do I want to. It's just a really easy hack for momentum, gaining confidence, showing yourself that, it is always mind over body and
Totally.
what you're possible of. And I mean, it's been great because I have a lot of I still call them patients a lot of times when they're actually my clients.
Yeah.
They're not my medical patients, but
Yeah.
I've had a lot of really interesting like weight loss scenarios with patients because they move because it makes them feel so much better, and then their
Yeah.
mindset is so much more stable.
Yeah, I love that. And they're probably way more positive too because they're getting movement. And I mean, they're pretty together. Movement is medicine and it helps the mind work better and more positive and I don't know, releases some good things, I'm sure. You know what
Hey,
I'm
if you
talking
look
about.
good, you feel good, and then you move more. So it's a circle. I love it.
Yeah, and then if you feel good, you usually think you look good too because you just feel better. So that's all right. Anyway, so what we're gonna get into now, I just want to hear a couple things that you talked about in your form as far as like journaling. I think you talked about it when you were younger. Can you tell us a little bit about how journaling has helped you in this journey?
Yeah, and it's such a rad story. I'm gonna try to condense it because I know
Yeah,
that times like
you're good.
so. I have my van is named Peg. Peg is my grandmother, and she was just a massive influence on me. Our early Christmas holidays were not big gift exchanges. She would have sent us a letter, which is why I still write, and she'd be like, "Hey, here's what we're gonna talk about for Christmas," and she's like, "Make sure you have your answers ready." So there's these questions like, who are the 5 most influential people in your life and why? What are 3 things you're grateful for, and how do they affect every day for you? And then looking at what's happened that year. Hey, you graduated high school. What are you looking at doing with your life, and what has led you to that? And just thoughtful things. What are your convictions and why? Weaknesses, flaws. I mean, there's questions we all probably ask ourselves, but maybe not officially write on it
Yeah, like a
or
prompt. Yeah.
Mhm. Not assessed. So we did that for over a decade. So, leading up from like teen years into becoming a young man. And before she passed, she gave us all of our letters back, the answers and the questions. So we had like a decade plus of all of this info about how we'd grown from like being teenagers
Wow.
into adults. Oh man, I'm getting all red faced because it makes me feel it's just such a memory. And
Yeah,
it's something that I've carried so seriously. Like, I've journaled that much because self-assessment to me is how we're tracking our progress. I mean,
totally.
it's and that's like the first thing people get with me is a massive load of how to structure the next month. And this is your only goal is getting this writing out. Because if you don't know where you're at, how do you know where you
Yeah.
want to go? So
Yes.
it's a good
Yes.
baseline start for people. So I offer that as like, that's my number one audience builder because people say, I don't know where to start. And I was like, start with yourself. How's that?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so helpful and so beautiful. I got chills when you were talking about that. I'm like, dang, grandma up in heaven, why didn't you do that? That's so great. I love that so much. What a beautiful, beautiful thing. I wonder if she just thought of that, if that just came to her, or if her parents did that. I wonder. I have
Not
so many
her
questions.
parents. Yeah, she didn't have like a huge relationship with her dad. I mean, he left them early. She's a very unique human, how she got to be the way she is. And
Yeah,
man, the way she poured energy into me and my brother and my mom, of course, like it was just really neat to see.
I mean, she sounds like she was pretty influential for multiple people because that is not something that was heard of, really. I mean,
Mhm.
journaling really is so new and people are like all about it, and it's just become so mainstream. And you're like, look, my grandma made us do this years and years ago. That's so cool. That's so special.
I think she was life coaching long before it was a Tony
Yeah,
Robbins
totally.
title. I think
Totally.
before we were calling people woke, I think she was.
Totally. Totally. She sounds so enlightened, and that's so beautiful. And it honestly just builds your credibility even more to be who you are, and be this coach and this person, because it's literally engraved in your DNA. And it's
Mhm.
really cool.
It's funny
So
to see like hustler accounts now on Instagram that are like very based on performance and being successful. And I see these book lists and I was like, oh, I read that 15 years ago. And I'm like, oh,
yeah.
wow. I'm like, oh, Nan, I call her Nan or Nana. I was like, oh, she made me read that. Oh, she sent that to me. And
Wow.
I'm like, dang, I'll read a list, like a top 10 list. And it's like normally 50% to 75% of all the stuff
Yeah.
you read.
How cool is that? You must feel so good about that. That's so special and so authentic and raw. And I just think that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, no, it's like my favorite story. I mean, I feel so connected to this mission now because
Yeah.
it feels very aligned.
Yeah, it definitely is. So I think that makes you 10 times more credible than the average coach out there, because that is something to be proud of, and know that she taught you before you even knew you were a student.
Right. And it's what's carried me to here now. It's so wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the one attribute that I know my brother and I carry well. It's just like the attitude you maintain during everything is who you
Totally.
are. And
Totally.
my brother's an ER doc. We're both in medicine. And I'm like, man, we've gone the distance and it hasn't been easy, but boy, it's helped that we've had that, at least that headspace for it.
Totally. I'm reading right now Grit by Angela Duckworth, and
Oh,
she's mentioning that a lot, like how to parent grit, like how to influence your children.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, your grandmother did that. She created that mindset. It's a perspective that was instilled in you at such a young age, where she asked you questions, didn't tell you what to believe, but like gave you ways to figure out who you were. And it
Mm-hmm.
was just that's the building of motivation and the building of the dedication, which we could still build as adults, but like you got it way early on.
Well, that's a good read. I think I'm trying to think if that was a TED talk because I feel like I'd
it's
listened to
it's
that.
a 6-minute TED talk. Real quick, she has a 6-minute one out there, but
Because I
she
remember what was it? Hearing about that in another book though, and it was the mindset book where like Carol Dweck's mindset book
yeah,
references grit all the time.
they both reference each other very
Yeah.
often.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great one. Like sort of becoming is better than
Yeah.
being, right? Like you have to
Yeah.
really emphasize
Yeah.
the effort, not the inborn talent.
Exactly. It's not, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's not harboring like, oh, you're so talented, like you're a natural. It's like, no, you became that. Like you worked hard, and
Mm-hmm.
whether you knew you were working hard on it or not, it created who you are, and you're still fostering that, which is the whole point. So that's really cool.
True that. Well, good for
Really,
you.
really
You're consuming
cool.
great content.
Oh, I have a personal growth book club, and we consume a book a month at least, and it's a lot of, I've got a lot of books. That's why I think about the minimalistic lifestyle that you have, and I'm like, but what about my books on my bookshelf? Like I got to really get into the audio books, but like I just love a hardcover book so much.
I do too. I love to read. I've got a stack here. I got a bookshelf actually. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, is that visible in my bookshelf?
Yes, I
There you
see.
go.
I see.
So, I buy a lot of used, but I also like I just give them away. Like as I'm traveling, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, here you go. And
Yeah.
then, they're good. But if you haven't, pardon me, if you haven't heard the Tim Ferriss like note-taking software, Evernote, I take like every book that I'm reading, I just open up an Evernote book and essentially take notes in it, bold it, and you can keyword search, you can take photos and like get all of your text in there. So when you want to go back and reference, you can find it like immediately by keyword
Wow, that's super helpful. I've never even heard of that.
or page number too. Like I even save the page number. So if I want to reference the whole passage, I can just grab the book and actually look at it. You could do that
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
at a bookstore if you didn't have the book itself, but that's what I.
Yeah. That's wild. I mean, my books are destroyed with post-it notes and underlines and circles and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so messy. But I like almost every page. So it's like, I don't really know how helpful that would be.
I mean, they're not destroyed; they're well loved.
Yeah, no, they're loved hardcore. They're tossed around, and yeah, they're textbooks to me. You know,
Yeah,
that's
well,
how I
yeah, heck
learned.
yeah. In this style of, you know, I think late life education and whatever it takes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, love this conversation so much, so much. So I'm gonna say my infamous line that I say in every single episode, which is, today you are on Tal's Tips Empowerment Podcast, but it is Daniel's empowerment podcast. So Daniel, do you have any tips to leave us with today?
Yeah, I'm a big journeyman. Like, I'm always traveling, and I think my number one takeaway from most is just embracing the journey. I think we're really sort of plastered with status things and achieving success and becoming these luxury entrepreneurs, and success is your own definition, and by all means you need to enjoy the process of getting there. Don't let someone else make your goals for you.
Totally.
I've gotten really back into just the complete embrace of the process, embracing the journey. And it means so much to me just to be present in that. Like my dog, you know, like being a very present dog owner, enjoying my gym time, enjoying the books that I'm consuming. And then like the client calls, you know, I'm not where I want to be right now, but I'm getting there. And every day is still pretty rad.
Yeah, yeah, so cool. And I love that you said before, you know, becoming is better than being, because once you're being, it's like, but you're also present when you're becoming. So it's like you have the best of both worlds, because you're still becoming. You're not, you know, your desired identity just yet, but you are becoming that every day and working towards that by being so present and choosing those things. So it makes perfect sense. It really does. Even if it sounds a little confusing, it's totally not. I totally get it.
Yeah, and in the context from like the grit and the mindset book, I mean, it's an amazing concept, but it's tough to honestly regurgitate the info and make it resonate as deeply. It's because it was
Totally.
very eloquent when they wrote it.
Totally. And it's helpful when there's research behind it. Like, I'm sure you're pretty science-based, maybe because of your background, but it's also really helpful to hear in terms that you can understand, so that you can, like as we're talking about it,
Oh yeah.
it's probably helpful to learn and hear and regurgitate, like you said. So I love that. I think that is great advice, to enjoy the journey and just keep it simple and focused and nurtured all at the same time.
Right.
Love
It's
it.
tough. Yeah. I mean, it's a everyday battle, everyday practice, but I mean, I think that's the consistency we need.
I love it. I love it. I couldn't agree more. So Daniel, where can we find you today? If anyone's listening and wants to connect with you or find your YouTube or anything like that, where can they find you?
So it is MountainManDan across all platforms. My last name is Walden, like the Henry David Thoreau book. So Daniel Walden, but MountainManDan is the YouTube, the Instagram. And if you see a van and a dog, it's likely the right one.
Perfect. Perfect. And if there's any offers that you want to mention or freebies, I will gladly promote them for you on this episode in the show notes. So you just let me know if
Oh
there's anything you
yeah,
want to
the journal
attach.
prompts we talked about, you know, I
Yeah.
offer those. I put them in the video descriptions in a lot of my YouTube videos. So just so they're available, I mention them if I'm producing coaching content, not just like van life travel stuff. I normally will tag all of the good audience builders and things like that people want journal prompts. So I've got them out there. I'll share them with you as well, and
Perfect.
absolutely pass them along. Anyone that can dive into those and they find that they would like them after our convo, I would love to share that.
Yes. Awesome. I know there will definitely be some amazing women and even men that connect with you after this. So thank you so much for your time, Daniel. It was so awesome to meet you, and hopefully we can meet in person one day.
For sure. I'll stay in touch online and we'll connect when we can.
All right.